My name is Jay the S, it stands for Jake the Snake. What I do is I try to live a righteous life, you know what I'm saying? I try to stay on top of things and do me, you know? I think what Dante's referring to is what I do musically. I'm a rapper, I'm an artist though, you know? Besides rapping, I also produce, I write for singers, and I like to make sure my music, especially as of late, is more than just bars over beats. I'm making music, you know what I'm saying? I'm making novels out of these things, movies out of these songs, and I'm incorporating a lot of different genres of music into my new stuff, everything from obviously hip-hop to rock and roll to soul to reggae to some electro stuff, but it's all hip-hop at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And I grew up in the Caribbean, right? So reggae was a big influence to me, and I came over to America when I was like 4 or 5, to Massachusetts. I moved around Springfield, Greenfield, Boston eventually, you know, but reggae always been a big influence. That's in a lot of my music, you know what I mean? And then as time went on, you know, my parents back in the day used to be associated with a lot of famous rock musicians, so there was always musicians and stuff around, so I've always been influenced by music, but I never played their own instruments growing up. We didn't have no guitars, no pianos, nothing like that. But I always liked to write, I had a lot of serious stuff I always wanted to express myself in some means, so rapping just kind of came naturally after I was well into my teens. I'd already been breakdancing when I was younger, writing graffiti, you know what I mean? And hip-hop was always a part of my life, and then when I found out I could rap, I could freestyle, once I learned to express myself like that, it's kind of what I wanted to do for a job, what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, you know what I mean? When it used to be just freestyling with my mans when we was teenagers, because, you know, our older homie was a DJ or something like that, you know, we'd be just kids getting high, just messing around in the whip or on the street just for fun. I don't think I was 18, my man Alfonso, this kid I went to high school with, was working on a CD, and he heard that I spit, and he just took me to the studio. I'd never been to the studio, I never wrote the verse down, so I got there, and he's like, oh, you want to do something? I was like, oh, let me take something home, write it, come back. So I took the beat that he had, went home, wrote something, recorded. When I first heard myself back, that was an interesting feeling, so I thought I wanted to do that, you know, and at the same time I was reading a lot, I was getting put onto a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? I was building a lot of older guards and put on some things, and then I had all this stuff penned up in me, and I was learning how to express it and get it out and address situations and things I was seeing, whether in my own life or in the streets or my friends' lives or the social issues. And so I just took to writing, you know what I mean? Writing rhymes, writing songs, going out, and I would do everything well. I would go to open mics, battles, do whatever, getting on shows, mixtapes, recording. It's not just snowballing and didn't stop from there, you know. My work ethic always, I'm very blessed to have a good work ethic. I was taught it at a young age, hard work, and I always had a job, whether legal, illegal, or something, you know, since I was 13, you know what I'm saying? So no matter what I was into, I was always busting my ass at it all the time. That's the only way you always make progress or whatever. So when it came to the music stuff, you know, when it was just for fun, it was just for fun. But I was like, you know what, I might want to try to do this. I just went in, you know what I mean? That was priority number one. I don't have any kids, you know, I'm not married. I do take care of a lot of people, you know, but at a younger stage in my life, I was, you know, not financially able to as much as I am now. But my main priority was the music thing. So whatever it took to get the money for the studio time, for this and that, I was doing it. It didn't matter what it was. Dirt, whatever I had to do was done. So I made that my priority. I was going to all those shows, those open mics, networking, just climbing, whether it was 1 inch at a time or whatever, or a mile at a time. I was just crawling and getting in, and I still am, and I've made glorious progress, but it didn't come, you know, easy. There was no cosign. A lot of kids come with cosigns, a DJ or another established artist or something, but I just came in on the strength of Jay the S, Jay the Snake, you know what I'm saying? And I made it this far. Very, very happy about that, and got more places to go and going there, so it looked good. I've worked with lots of big artists, tons of big rappers, anything from like Jadakiss to Saigon, Devin the Dude, Raz Cash, Crooked Eye, Joel Ortiz, Nipsey Hussle, tons of cats, you know. I've opened up for tons of dudes, KRS, G-Rap, Wu-Tang, Slaughterhouse, Fat Joe, like whoever, you know. And all that's cool, but that stuff never really made me feel like I was more established than I was, you know. I never wanted that to define me. Those are just things to do because it's good for you. You know, if you are a lesser known cat and you got a record with these dudes, you open for them, that's more exposure. And if you impress those listeners, then you get some new fans that are gonna check for Jay the S, Jake the Snake stuff, you know what I mean? So doing all that, you know, getting interviews in prominent magazines or prominent websites and being on big radio shows, there's been a lot. And I wouldn't say any one single one made me feel like I've made it, because each one has been a step, you know. And I got more things coming up next week, this whole next month. Like, you know, something's always going on that's gonna take me further. So I don't know if I could say one thing in particular. I think it's just a combination of everything, and that's really what makes it a success. I don't know. I mean, I was always into arts when I was a kid. You know, I used to paint and draw a lot. I've always been into music, but I never did it myself. And then, you know, when I started, you know, making hip hop music, that was a new medium for art, and I'm more inclined to do something artistic than I am to say sit behind a desk. That's not my thing. You know, that's never been my thing. I'm not good at following orders. I could never be a waiter or anything like that. I don't do great customer service. I can't slam clothes at the store. You know, I do like people. I used to be a teacher. I was teaching in Dorchester for a while, and I love working with kids. I work with kids all over the city of Boston and in other cities. And that's one thing that I kept in the back of my mind when I do my music is, you know, is thinking about the youth and thinking about how what we do affects them and things like that. And so, I mean, I always keep that in mind when I'm doing my music. But other than those two things, you know, there wasn't a lot of other things I saw myself really doing with it, you know? It's not easy, it's expensive, it's time consuming, it's alienating, it's stressful, and, you know, if you're a real cat, depending on what your background is, you're gonna be introduced to a whole lot of unreal stuff. The rap industry is probably full of some of the most artificial people I've ever met. It makes ugly people out of otherwise beautiful people. Makes them into savages. So you're gonna deal with a lot of slimeballeness. You're gonna find out a lot of people really ain't your friends. You're gonna have to do a lot of pride swallowing and putting on smiles and shaking hands when you don't want to, especially if you've dealt with real situations before. That's very hard. It's a compromise you gotta make. And there's a lot of things that you're gonna sacrifice. That's the big word, sacrifice. You wanna do it, you gotta sacrifice a whole lot, and that's gotta become priority number one. So if you already got kids, that's something that's gonna hold you back. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing to be a father or a mother, have children. But I'm just telling you, truth be told, that's a holdback in this game. If you got a girlfriend, if you got a wife, if you got it from 9 to 5, like, you know, whatever, like, you know what I mean? That's why a lot of cats hustle and do the rap thing, because they think it gives them some flexibility. And I'm not knocking that or encouraging that, you know what I'm saying? Either way, like, I'm not gonna judge it because of what I've done, you know what I mean? I don't have a perfect example of, you know, about how to go about doing those things, like, you know, getting money legally, but you just gotta make it your number one priority. You gotta go in and you gotta network with everybody you can. Nothing's too small for you. You're not too cool for nothing. You ain't a superstar yet. Even when you get popping, you ain't a superstar. So keep yourself humble. Keep yourself in check, and make sure you ain't around a bunch of yes men. Make sure you're around people that are gonna challenge you, artistically challenge you, you know, all your work, so you can always make it the best, always be improving, and listen to people. When someone's criticizing you, it ain't always negative. Listen for the good in that. You know, always flip it around. Look at the glass half full, and you gotta have persistence, and you gotta listen to your heart. It's gonna be hard. Really think about it if you want to rap. Think about if you got strengths in other realms. If you got other talents you ain't explored or exploited enough yet, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you should look at those and take those a little more serious. You might find great success in one of those avenues than necessarily rapping. Everyone wants to be in the spotlight. Behind the scenes, it's kind of nice. It makes me kind of wish I was there, you know what I mean? Because you actually make more money, usually more secure money, and you don't got to deal with much of the stress. So just think about that. Explore some other avenues, you know what I mean?
J the S.
Peace, this is J the S, Jake the Snake, Greater Good General. P.S. ReadTheBest.com. This is what you're watching.
Girl, better change your plans. Yeah, but I ain't ready for it all. I got bottled water, gold buried in the ground. Can't fool heavy artillery and rams. It's going down.